Welcome you back again. I'm Aaron Cooney here, 3-on-3. They look to find Drysdale. A burst of speed. Drysdale scores! Davey Drysdale in overtime. Bounce ahead, gets around the man. It's goal line. Walks in, backhander. He scores! Erie pokes it away. They're going to have a chance. Out of the box is goal line. Here comes Sproul. In on goal. Sproul goes to forehand. He scores! Working down the right side and into the zone. Going to move on in. Shoots. He scores! That's 40 for Jen Yetman. Former Ice Dog hands off to Fowler. One-time shot. He scores! Welcome to the party, pal. Sofra sets up Fowler. 2-on-1. Drysdale right wing side. Drags to the front. Drysdale. Hey! Shoots and scores! Drysdale. What a rush! Drysdale calls for it. They'll go to Podolny on the left side circle. Swings it in front. Deflected in! The milk's gone bad. Chad Yetman in front, deflects it past Guzda. 0 for 5 this season on shootouts. As he walks in, goes to 5-0. Hey! Scores! Dinner's gonna be cold tonight. Dinner's gonna be cold tonight. Dinner's gonna be cold tonight.
Welcome to another edition of OHL Voices, joined today by Erie Otters voice Aaron Cooney. Been doing play-by-play for the Otters since the 2013-14 season. Of course, Connor McDavid's second season and the first 50-win season of, sort of, I guess, what you could call a bit of a dynasty era for the Otters franchise over the past few seasons. But of a block of 4 or 5 seasons there where there was some pretty incredible results in the standings. Aaron's known for his flavorful play-by-play commentary. He really makes the game come alive. He's got a great sense of humor. Thanks for joining us today, Aaron.
Josh, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
You've seen the likes of McDavid, Strome, DeBrincat. A lot of big names have come through the flagship city there. What's that experience been like for you over the years, just to see players like that grow physically, mature into young men, and ultimately become some of the best players in the world?
It's been interesting, and I think for me, it's been a like everybody, it's a growing experience. I came into this league not knowing a whole lot of what junior hockey and OHL was really all about. I knew this was the majority. You watch the NHL draft in the States, that a lot of these guys that are drafted are coming from and playing in the CHL, and it's one of those leaders in growing National Hockey League talent. We don't get a whole lot of exposure to junior hockey outside of the World Junior Championship every Christmas and New Year's, every holiday season. So that's kind of the extent of it. So when I jumped in, and that 13-14 season, it was a real trial by fire. You knew this Connor McDavid kid and how good and what he was supposed to go on to do, that he was the next one following that next one status, like Sidney Crosby before him in junior hockey and coming in with Rimouski. So you got a sense of, okay, this is pretty big time. And then all of a sudden you get into it and you get your first glimpse of going to the Budweiser Gardens. And it's like, dude, this is big time. Like there's a lot that goes into this, and this is way bigger than I thought that we were going to. And from a guy that made a demo tape calling 8-year-old hockey games to get the job. So you get, you start this experience and you see these guys and, working with Adam Pelech, Connor Brown, Dane Fox, these guys that first year, and it kind of set the tone that, these guys, a lot of them, they're going places, and we see them now on TV and making their careers professionally. And then working with a kid like Connor McDavid just as a 16-year-old that year, Dylan Strome, his first year in the league as a 16-year-old. And, that year also bringing Andre Burakovsky from Sweden coming in as a first-round pick of the Washington Capitals. There was just this list of talent. And it wasn't probably not until here these last few years we really look back and you're like, this really got to work with something special that you didn't really recognize at the time until that season was over. But seeing those guys, and I think it is that first kind of group that you really get to watch from draft year or draft day to the completion of their OHL career, that kind of sticks with it. And you build those relationships, and you have the same kind of coming from that similar experience with Belleville, being around the team, and you welcome these guys in that press release when you draft them, and when they commit to the team and the organization, and all of a sudden now they're going on to whatever the next step is in their career. So as much as I think of guys like Alex DeBrincat and Dylan Strome, Connor McDavid, you name it, I think a lot of about Kyle Pettit, a guy I spent 4 seasons with, Darren Radish, who's making a career for himself in the American Hockey League with Chris Knobloch in Hartford. And these guys that, Taylor Radish is another one that you saw from draft until they're on their way out. So it's pretty incredible that you get to spend some time with that and kind of document what their time was in junior hockey before they go and take that next career step.
I'd have to imagine the 2017 championship and, the trip to the Memorial Cup in Windsor. I have to think those things would rank pretty high. I mean, not just on your list of hockey memories, but just memories in your life. I remember being about 10 feet away from you when you lifted the Robertson Cup, and it's one of the happiest I've ever seen a person in my life. I have to think those things rank pretty high on your list of memories.
Oh, 100%, no doubt. And, you hear a lot of talk, and I've one of this too. There are guys that refuse to touch trophies and where they work for or where they're at. And, it's not my place. It's all players. But I think when you have such a tight knit group, when you're talking about front offices that operate with 6-7 people to make this work and put on a show for, that night specifically, 6,700 plus people that are in a sold out building, that doesn't just happen at the snap of a finger. It's a lot of grinding over the course of, 8 months that a front office has to go through and you put in. And for guys in media that are riding the buses, these are long trips that you've done. I made a lot of trips to the Sioux with, how many times we played them in the playoffs the previous years before that. And seeing, be able to enjoy it with some of those guys that sacrifice so much and work so hard from that start, from my first year, which was a lot of their, first full years in the league and everything, to what they accomplished that last year. So I think, you think a lot of that. I am just the guy that just talks on the radio and hopefully is bringing this game and entertaining, and you know what the score is, what's going on, what the storyline is. I think off the ice, I see my career develop in a lot of other things I never thought I was going to do, like selling sponsorships and, creating graphics and editing more video and making a billboard or whatever it may be. So that all kind of comes together in that last moment. And when you have a guy look at you and hand you that trophy, it's like a lot of that all came together right there. Yes, it's on the team, but if the team doesn't have the business side, it's probably not going to operate. The business doesn't have a team, well, you really don't have it a business. So the way hockey works, it goes hand in hand, especially with how small and these front offices are. And I think that was a night for a lot of us to also see the hard work that has gone through in those long seasons, the previous 3 where you fell just short. The whole group combined got to celebrate a lot of that work that went into it.
Yeah, the OHL certainly makes one versatile. I've learned that firsthand and picked up a lot of new skills along the way. You mentioned, we talked about championships. They're precious, but they're also costly. The Otters outside of the playoffs for a couple seasons. But, we fast-tracked to this past season and maybe a little bit of satisfaction and mission accomplished in getting into that last playoff spot, despite all the circumstances and how the season ended and whatnot. But that group of guys that was in that dressing room, kind of pulled together. And along the way, you had a chance to see guys like Chad Yetman and Max Golod really turn into top tier forwards in this league. It's a little different than winning a trophy at the end of it, but I'm sure there's still some satisfaction there.
I think so. And I've had the opportunity to talk to some of these guys as well. And they echo the same thing. There's a lot of disappointment because, for a guy like Chad Yetman and Max Golan, it's 3 years now. They've been in the league and still haven't actually played a playoff game. It's great that mission accomplished. You got the opportunity to finish there, to get in the postseason. You would have been in the dance if something would have worked out for everybody in the OHL and in sports world, that you could continue and have your postseasons. But it just wasn't meant to be, as we all kind of find our way and work through these times that we're in. So I know there's some disappointment there from those guys, but the growth is right there. And I think that, again, that hunger is also there coming into next season, that great, we got this one portion. There's a lot more to go out and do here. And for a lot of these guys, it'll be this one last season they get to go out and try to accomplish more. And I think looking back at this year, this team has had to battle through adversity and changes and things, bumps along the road that they never expected. I mean, first and foremost, you look at training camp and you thought you had your blue line set. Luke Beamish was going to be a major part of this. But due to injury and everything, and for the betterment of his career post-hockey, retired from the game, lost a key piece and a guy that can move the puck forward and fit into the style of game the Otters wanted to play. Now you're looking for solutions. At the same time, you lost an overage defender in Jake Golden to injury for a while, and it kind of forced the hand of Erie to go and make some deals. Maybe it wasn't in the cards at the beginning of the season, and nothing actually goes to plan normally in a hockey season as you navigate through it when you get into grinding some of these months. But the Otters worked through that and found a way to get into the postseason. They battled through a lot of injuries. Man games lost. I would have to go back through my notes, but they were closing in on 200 by the time we got to towards the end of the season, and the kind of pause that led to everything in mid-March. So, if you could have gone through this season healthy and with some consistency, I mean, for Chris Hartsburg he had the bingo balls out every single game, trying to make a line combination something that worked, because you just didn't have guys at your disposal. But somehow they found a way to win games. They did it and learned a lot, I think, and it's going to push into this next season where it is time to take that next step, and it is time for these guys that have one last go around, and who knows what's next around the corner for some of these guys that are looking at the NHL draft coming up, whenever that's going to be, where maybe their career ends in the OHL a little shorter than anticipated. So we don't know. There's all those question marks, but I know the future, they're pretty excited, and the team brass is pretty excited with what's to come and getting back on the ice here for the 2021 year.
As you kind of reflect on the season, I'm just curious if you had a favorite call or maybe a game in the season that was pivotal, or something that maybe defined something for the Otters in 2019-20.
I look back at this year, and one game in particular comes together, and I think a lot of it's just been me thinking about Erie and this community, and how the teams here are looking to work together to provide a bigger impact in this city and create positive change in Erie, in this community. And back in November, the Otters partnered with their AA affiliate baseball team of the Detroit Tigers, the Erie Seawolves, who are the Otters' next door neighbors. In the summer, right around training camp time for the Otters, the Seawolves were on the verge. They're looking to clinch playoffs, and this tragedy happens with their catcher in Chase Numata, a prospect, and an accident that happened, left him in the hospital, ultimately passing away from the injuries sustained from this accident. And the rally around that group, around that baseball team, around Major League Baseball together, you saw signs on MLB, jumbotrons and everything, and we wanted to do something too. And it worked out that we found this game to host a Erie Seawolves night at the Erie Insurance Arena, and wearing Seawolves baseball jerseys in mid-November. And the game, it just went the way, one way you probably couldn't just thought it up. Like, maybe you just would have rolled through some team, know what was supposed to happen. The Otters had the scratch and claw, like they kind of was their, their identity this season. Scratch and claw to come back, you tie the game up late, and then it goes to the final seconds of overtime, where
Otters will win this draw back. Drysdale with a man in front, shoots this one, deflected in! Ball game! Otters win!
The Otters win a face-off back. Drysdale puts a shot on net, and Austin Zwenkler deflects this one in to win the game in overtime. It's a walk-off win for the Erie Otters in Seawolves jerseys with the group there. And to kick off the night, a donation that went, and I think $5,000 donation from Erie Otters owner Jim Waters to the Chase Numata Scholarship Foundation that was kicked off earlier that week. And then jersey auction to go with it that goes to that. They just awarded here in Erie, they just awarded the scholarship winners for student athletes in Erie that are going to go on and continue their sports careers into the college ranks, university ranks. So it was great to be a part of that, and part of that opportunity, and to have a game like that where anybody, you get down to those final seconds and you get an opportunity to game tying goal, you got a packed crowd with an overtime winning call. That was a home run. I got all the puns right now. I guess there's a home run for Erie and for that hockey game.
Well, you mentioned Jamie Drysdale, of course, playing a big role in that goal, and we'd be remiss if we didn't chat about Jamie's season and what you've kind of seen from him over the past 2 years and his development. And I think he's obviously he was a highly touted guy coming into the league, but really a perfect example of a player who stepped in at 16 and was just an instant impact. Playing against the league's top players and handling himself, even though he's
Mm-hmm.
a bit of a smaller guy, but just his stride, his intelligence, and obviously, Hockey Canada noticed that, making him part of their World Junior team. A lot could be said about Jamie. Maybe you just put his 2 years there in Erie into words.
Yeah, and I can tell people I was wrong right off the bat. You think when you get a 16-year-old defenseman, I have people asking me, what's the plan with this guy? I was like, well, as a 16-year-old defenseman, I would think you maybe want to ease him in a little bit. Nope. Chris Hartsburg, they threw him right out there, first pairing defenseman, running the power play as a 16-year-old. Like, this threw everybody off. And it's a credit to him because he took it and ran with it, with the opportunity. Set the Otters record for points as a rookie defenseman in his first year. Last year, you could tell taking that the next step, and everybody's right. You're looking at some of these draft assessments of what Jamie Drysdale does, and yes, he's not going to win every puck battle in a corner based on his size, but he's so smart that he finds ways to negate that offensive attack wherever it may be, just by finding a different point of attack and taking puck away from a puck carrier, forcing the play that didn't want to, that may not have the forward or the attacker may have thought of. So, and all of this comes from, and his opportunities, offensively to move the puck, to skate with the puck, to bring that up and join him, jumping in the rush. And his skating ability allows him also to be the first guy back and right back in position. You just can't catch this guy really off. And that's just 2 years in the league, and now as a 17-year-old and 18-year-old pushing for the NHL draft year coming up. A lot of the work that he's put into it, it's been noticed, as you mentioned, by Hockey Canada. Wins a gold medal with Canada. Coming out party in that semifinal game there against Finland, with the goal and everything. And the guy earned his minutes when he had the opportunity again. Down a defenseman that needs somebody to play. You put the 17-year-old kid in, and he takes that opportunity and runs with it. He's intelligent, he's skilled, and on top of that, a great kid to work with as well. We've seen him as the Otters nominee for Scholastic Player of the Year. He took home the Otters Award for that as well, for their own team awards banquet that we'll be announcing here soon. And the Otters, on top of that, it's funny just talking to him, and so many guys can be so cliche and short with their answers. It's funny to me that Jamie said that he enjoys public speaking, and it's one of his favorite classes in school, and that he wants, when you talk to him and interview him, he will just ingest this question, digest it, and have a thoughtful answer provided for you. It's not cookie cutter. Like, this is a smart kid, and wherever he lands up in the NHL, whoever's going to take him, and I would imagine, for me, top defenseman in the draft, whoever misses out on this kid, you're missing out on a great person and also a great player that's going to be a huge asset to your franchise.
And one might argue, we're not sure if his OHL career is over, but he might be the best defenseman to ever wear the logo. A debate to be had, no doubt. But
don't put Darren Radish up to that. Let me tell you.
An impressive body of work, nonetheless. One kind of trend I've noticed just with the Otters in the past 4 or 5 years is maybe a bit more of an emphasis on finding talent from Pennsylvania. Of course, a guy like Alex Gritz was in the lineup for a couple of years, and now with Aiden Campbell and Austin Swankler, and then Lucas Ross being picked in the second round of this past draft. Is there a bit more of an emphasis from the scouting department to keep an eye on Pennsylvania talent? Have you seen the game gradually grow in the state?
I would think so, and I think a lot of this comes to a lot of the credit goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins elite organization, and how that's grown into one of the top youth organizations going. They won that group with just 2 years ago, won a national championship that included Aiden Campbell and also Erie's second round pick from 2019 and Colby Saginaw, who recently committed to the group. People for example, Ross moved there from Ottawa kid moved there to play. So you have guys going to be part of this organization, knowing what you get. And a lot of credit goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins and investing in that. The building that they play in, the Lemieux complex out in Cranberry, is a brand new facility with top of the line where they can really work and train. And I know Alex Gritz, during his time, and even going back home, would train there and skate there in the off season. So these guys, they have a lot of tools at their disposal. And I think the Erie the Otters scouting staff recognizing this and seeing where these kids are coming from at some of these showcases. It was time to invest in that. They've always had a U.S. scout. They've added to the U.S. scouting department, looking into the Pennsylvania and Buffalo area. They've taken trips down to see some of these showcases that are down at the Lemieux complex at the same time. So a lot of credit goes to that, and to the Penguins, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and what they've really done with hockey in Western Pennsylvania and even into Ohio. They've done some collaborations over into Ohio as well, in growing the game. And you're starting to see that a lot of those kids, when Crosby first coming in the league and a lot of their favorite players, you're starting to see the kind of the fruits of that labor and that kind of push. As the Penguins got better, you're seeing those kids now turn 14, 15, 16, 17. So right around the time where you'd be looking and getting drafted in this league. So that's a lot of that is starting to pay off. And the Otters have certainly found that in their backyard, that it's easy for them to make a 2-hour drive down I-79 down south into Pittsburgh and go watch a few games, which you may need. But a lot of credit goes around for Erie recognizing that, and the Otters, Dave Brown knew he wanted to be a part of that and having that homegrown connection. And I think it's gone a long way, and we're seeing a lot of that with the recent signings and these guys coming from the playing in the Pittsburgh area, now committing to Erie and into a pipeline into the OHL.
We speak of scouting, and of course we mentioned earlier names like Yetman and Golod, both guys who were mid and late round picks that developed into incredible talents for your team this year. Interesting, as we look ahead into next season, and really, for the Otters to be successful, I think there's some dependence on some of the 2001 born forwards taking that step forward, kind of like the names we just mentioned did. Mm-hmm. Maybe guys like Selin or Emmett Sproul or Brendan Hoffman, all guys that were drafted and developed within the organization. How important is it going to be to see some of those 2001 names just take that little extra step?
I think a lot of that's going to be leaned in on. I think Erie's, when you look at just that 2000 group, you have some pretty impactful guys that are going to be overagers with the steps that Golod and Yetman have taken. They have some decisions to make on that side still, and how that's going to play out, we'll find out. But yeah, you're going to lean on those 18, 19-year-old guys. And it's something I'll never forget from my first year from talking with Chris Knobloch. And, if you're going to be a successful team in this league, you need your 18 and 19-year-olds to be your best players. Those 19-year-old guys need to be your best players. So you're looking at guys like a Hayden Fowler, like an Emmett Sproul, Austin Swankler, another, that need to take that next step and where it's going to be. It's funny you mentioned the guys like D'Amato, Selin, and Brendan Hoffman, who were probably the most consistent line for this group, for the Otters, all season long. As much as everything changed and you had to make what happened, as long as those three guys were healthy, they were playing together. And there's a chemistry there that's gone back even to their first years 2 seasons ago, that these guys just work hard. That's what they do. They may not have the skill at some of the first line forwards you see around this league, but they're not going to be outworked when they're thrown out there onto the ice together. So that is a group that they'll certainly keep together. And it is, a lot of these guys need to take that next step. You have some impactful guys going into draft years, a kid like Connor Lockhart, Colby Saganuk is expected, there's going to be some adjustments, but he's going to step in and they expect him to make some contributions as well. So there's a lot of pieces. Again, I think like every team, you think you put it on the whiteboard and you got the good mix and the recipe, but you still got to watch this thing marinate and come together. So we'll certainly find out. The 2001s, I think this team is pretty, they're pretty confident in the group that they have put together, and a lot of the planning, maybe it didn't seem as it was going their way. And then you get a good off season and you get some commitments the way that they've had. Maybe things are going to look up in a different direction. So I think they're pretty excited in where they're going, and the group that they've assembled is starting to come together as they imagined it a couple of years ago.
Aaron Cooney, the play-by-play voice of the Erie Otters. Always a pleasure to talk hockey with you, Aaron. Hey, it's a hot one here in Ontario. I hope you're being able to get out and enjoy some of the weather, despite us being a little bit cooped up inside these past few months. Hope you're taking the opportunity to enjoy what has been an extended off season.
Yeah, we're going to try to get out there and I got to stay in shape, man, because when you sit around on the couch in your apartment for a couple of months cooped up, it's taking a toll. It's the COVID-15. I can feel it on me. I got to get rid of it here before the postseason. But thanks for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to talking hockey in 2021.
Thanks, Aaron. I think I speak for both of us when we say we're looking forward to getting the puck dropped again. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.